and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is dancing with life. And when we surrender to the music and the rhythm, we move into a space of rich collaboration with melody and rhythm and movement, our bodies. There's an alignment of heart and spirit, and we sort of transcend ourselves to get into this more fluid state. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Before we get started talking about dancing with life, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the motion, the pressure, the sensations of tickling and tingling when you stop. Allow all of that to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, dancing with life. Oh, Rosalind, I want to say thank you for your follow-up, sending me that information. That was awesome. Yesterday, we were talking about the impact of finally acknowledging the extraterrestrial intelligence on this planet and how we already have really advanced technologies as a result of that. And Rosalind sent me a link to an article, a whole new rabbit hole about patents that were released for anti-gravity vehicles and a room temperature collider. I want to say collider, but it's not a collider. Anyway, sort of free energy. So pretty amazing stuff. And so we are invited to this great dance of life. And what flashed in my head for a moment is those, thank you, Rosalind. Rosalind said superconductor. That's what I was thinking of. So room temperature superconductor. And recently there was another release of information about that, but it was as if it just happened. And this happened in 2019 that the patents were released. So pretty amazing, crazy, crazy stuff. Oh, tired. So what came to mind was these dance-a-thons, where they're dance competitions to see who could dance for the longest, dancing for your life kind of thing. And it seems like that's very much the kind of environment that we're living in. And I'm not, I can see the potential for frenetic kinds of dance, but I also can see sacred dancing, where you're really becoming one with the music and the motion and the rhythm. And there's something that is transcendent about that. And for instance, music in ceremony, that helps us to step beyond our normal space of being. And movement can be so powerful in that context, and transformative, transcendent. Anyway, so this notion of dancing with life, the theme this week really has been, the underlying theme has been releasing resistance. And when we release resistance, we can have this wonderful collaboration or collaborative evolution of life unfolding. And I think that that's probably the biggest key, maybe, to experiencing the magic of life, is to release resistance. And when we release the resistance, like when there's music, when there's rhythm, we release the resistance, and then we are moved by that rhythm. And when we're moved by that rhythm, we can flow with it in ways that might be completely unanticipated and unprogrammed. So that's another theme for this week, is to be living into the emergent future, to be able to engage with life in a way that is generative, that is creating something new. I've mentioned Carol Sanford, and she has a fourth way school of thought. And someone asked me recently what it was that inspired me to join that school. And I said that I joined because I was looking for ways to generate original thought, to think newly, to think differently, to think beyond the constraints of my programming and my history. And that's really what this dance is about. I'm not talking about line dancing necessarily, although I think you could get there with any kind of dancing. There's one thing when you dance by doing the choreographed steps, and there's another thing when you dance when those steps then just are sort of a carrier wave or a vehicle to get to this other place of transcendence where the actual expression comes into the dance. And I know you've all seen and perhaps experienced the difference between dancing the steps, and dancing. And there's a place where maybe once you master those steps, that you can sort of bring a whole other dimension of being into that dance. And this conversation really comes there. I think I had 2 conversations yesterday about dancing with life, but it really comes from this one conversation that I had with a client that has been very committed to developing a new way of doing business and a new paradigm for business. And we had such a struggle in the beginning. It was so interesting because they were very very committed to the notion of sort of a traditional paradigm around sales. It's a numbers game, and you just do more and you push yourself to get to the goal and go beyond, and just push harder kind of thing and do more. And I was an advocate for stop doing, start being, and let the doing come from inspiration, from the being place, and being non-resistant, releasing the resistance. And when we're dancing, there can be that stiffness about how we're moving, or we can have this incredible fluidity. I think what I'm talking about is sort of sacred dance. Anyway, what has been remarkable is that they had the opportunity to deeply experience the contrast between this push to do, even do the things you don't like to do the things that, that it's hard, it's a struggle, it's like you gotta push, you gotta work hard, you got all this domination control kind of paradigm, goal oriented. It's all about the goal and reaching the goal. And the thing is that I'm not against finding milestones, and achieving milestones, unless the way that we're going about reaching those milestones is ignoring how we get there, by hook or by crook. It doesn't matter how you get there, it's only the result that counts. Well, that's not the case. This is the shifting paradigm, that it's the process, it's the beingness along the path that is the return in and of itself. And then milestones get fulfilled, objectives, intentions get fulfilled as we focus on our being state, releasing resistance. Because in all this push, what is it? It's resistance. It's cultivating resistance, right? And I recognize that there are places where that might be appropriate. There are places where it might be appropriate. Overall, there's a whole different experience of life when we allow life to be process rather than product. And that's like, we don't do a dance to get to the end of the dance. Maybe in competitive dance, you're doing the dance to win, but still the thing that's going to make that dance amazing is being in the process of it. So I've just binge watched Ted Lasso, and there's so many wonderful messages that are in alignment with so much of what we talk about here. But he's a soccer coach, or a football coach, as they say in the UK, which is where he was. And his whole thing is that it's not what it was for me, is that it's all about process. Like I see the alignment with that idea that we keep talking about here, is that it's the quality of being, the engagement, that is what life is. That is what life is. And we miss so much of life because we're looking over there and we're saying, this doesn't count. all that counts is getting there. And then once we get there, then what? Then we need another there to get to. And meantime, we missed all this goodness in between. And so this notion of dancing with life is, again, releasing the resistance, being with the music, being in that moment. When we are dancing, we are being, ideally, we are in concert with the music. We're in collaboration. We're in connection with the music, and that is informing our movements. And that fluidity, that collaboration is what life can be, even when things go awry. Is like, okay, things didn't happen the way I wanted them to, or things didn't happen the way I expected them to. So okay, this is an adventure. What's happening next? Maybe it's opening up an opportunity for me that I didn't anticipate. Every time I almost trip, or I trip but don't fall, and I wish I could say it doesn't happen often, but I would be lying. Anyway, every time that happens, I say thank you, because I could have fallen on my face, right? Which I've done also, you know? So we don't always know that a crisis has been averted, but you know, like sometimes when you're running late, or when there's an incredible traffic jam, or rather than getting all freaked out and stressed out, what would it be to relax into it and make allowance for it being an opportunity that you might not have otherwise discovered. So what is available to us? What can we see, feel, hear, touch, taste, experience if we allow ourselves to be in the dance? If we allow ourselves to surrender to the music and go beyond the fixation on what every step should look like, and then flow with it instead and respond to it, new opportunities are going to present themselves. So I've heard yesterday multiple stories about when it seemed that things were just going off the rails. There's one situation where it's sort of a political situation in a community revolving around an institution where someone was working, and there was all this upheaval and upset and corruption in the institution, and this big dust up kerfuffle that created so much discomfort for this person that it inspired them to take an action that they wouldn't otherwise have taken without that extreme a disruption, because they were so committed to what they were doing. This is so often the case. Either we're so committed to what we're doing, or we're so stuck that we don't see the bigger picture, that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to pursue a better pathway until we're pushed out of another. And the pushing out, or the disruption that it takes for us to allow ourselves to uproot ourselves, often has to be so dramatic and so profound, so painful, that we finally make a change. What if we were able to allow ourselves to move more fluidly with the indicators as they arise, so that we don't have to create so much suffering for ourselves before we explore our true heart's desires, before we give ourselves permission to move into a situation that is going to be so much better all the way around. We're very interesting creatures, human beings. We tend to submit to inertia so often. I'll stay in this relationship because the devil you know is better than the devil you know don't, right? Or I'm not going to get in relationship because something better might come along. We make all these decisions based on fear and resistance. And how much more readily might our lives flow if we allowed ourselves the vantage point that life is happening for us. What if that were true? What if we use that as the lens through which to view every situation, every occurrence? What if life were happening for me? All this disruption, what if it were happening for me and through me rather than to me? What if there's a bigger picture that I just can't see right now? Hello and welcome, Kim. Great to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to everybody else who's joining us. If you're wanting to write comments, or if you're writing comments and I'm not responding, by the way, it's because you need to go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page to leave your comments. Otherwise, they don't get seen, because we're using Restream and whatever, however it works behind the scenes. So when we can, it's one thing to say release the resistance. It's like, if I knew how to release the resistance, I would release the resistance. So that's kind of a useless directive, right? But if we look at, this is two ways to release resistance. One is get curious. Get curious. What's going on here? What's this about? Instead of, I don't want it to be this way. Because the I don't wanna, that's all of the I don't wanna, that's resistance. And we can notice that. And it can be a doorway into, well, what do I want? So curiosity is one way. And the other way is really to be looking at, well, what's the opportunity here? Which is also getting curious, but it's also, what if life is happening for me? It's a discipline. It's a discipline because it is not the trajectory of our culture. It is not even, it's so not a foundation of our culture. It's antithetical to the foundation of our culture. What if life were happening for me? Instead of, I have to protect myself from all the threats in life. And life is a threat. And I'm trying to defend against it all the time. And I've been there. And I have clients who are there and have been there. And the thing is that the more we brace, this was awesome yesterday, actually, another example of this was with one person who was talking about their fear and recognizing that was always there. And it was this fear of for instance, getting it, not in a literal way, but being struck by lightning. And what they realized is if they, in that moment of being struck by lightning, if they relaxed fully and completely into it, that the lightning would move through them and then they would become a child of the lightning. If they resisted the lightning, they would explode. And that is really the conversation that we're having as we're talking about dancing with life, is just relaxing and allowing the lightning to move through, and then becoming a child of the lightning with the lightning in your eyes and all that energy and all that power and all that magic. And that's what's available. You know, we think in our current paradigm, we think we know better than life. We think Western culture, let me be more specific, operates from, we know how to fix nature. GMOs, genetically modified organisms, we know how to do it better, right? But when we dance with life, we can be led by life itself. And the intelligence of life is many, many millions of years older than ours. And there's a wisdom there that can lead us very well. I don't know about you, but I've experienced that when I dance with somebody who really knows how to lead, I dance masterfully. It's kind of an interesting thing, if I can allow myself to surrender to that. It looks like I know how to dance. And when we can surrender to life, when we can collaborate with life, there's so much more available to us. There's a level of mastery that we get to be present to rather than orchestrating and participate in, that is enlivening and expansive and rewarding. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And it is always my privilege and pleasure and honor to be able to spend this time with you in the mornings and muse together. So until next time, so much love to you.